Love yours.
Hello, my name is Denasia Mosley, and I am the president and founder of the Society of Black Students in Healthcare. The Society of Black Students in Healthcare is committed to providing Black students with the resources and opportunities they need to succeed in the healthcare field. Black people are extremely underrepresented in healthcare and medicine, with only 6% of healthcare professionals identifying as Black. The Society is committed to not only bridging the gap, but evening the playing field. With that being said, today's video is going to be a complete guide on applying to college. For many students, the process of applying to college can be stressful, overwhelming, confusing, from requesting transcripts to writing essays to getting letters of recommendation. The whole process can be very overwhelming, and oftentimes even more overwhelming for Black students who have even less resources or opportunities. So my goal in this video is to simplify the college application process as much as I can to ensure that you all have a stress-free and easygoing application season. With that being said, let's get into the video. Normally, the first step of the college application process is deciding what schools you're going to apply to. So that means you need to compile a college application list or the college list that you are going to apply to. This process often is not talked about enough, which is why I'm going to be doing an entire separate video going into detail on that process alone. You need to consider location, size, cost, whether or not they have your intended major. Every student will have different things that are important to them in this process. Generally, the rule of thumb is that you need to have match, safety, and reach schools. Safety schools are schools that your personal stats, are above the school's recommended range. Match schools are where you're right in the sweet spot, and reach schools are generally schools that have low acceptance rates or are very hard to get into, such as Ivy League schools or top 20 schools. The next thing you need to consider is when you want to apply. Through the Common App, there are 3 application types: regular decision, early decision, and early action. Regular decision is the general and basic application deadline. The deadline for regular decision is usually sometime between November and January. Early decision is a binding early application, meaning that if you're accepted to this school, you are required to attend. Early action is a non-binding early application. However, some schools do have restrictive early action, meaning that if you apply early to that school, it is the only school you can apply to. There are several benefits to applying early, which generally are that your application is reviewed before regular decision applicants, meaning that in most cases you will have a higher chance of getting in, and also you will get your decision back earlier, which can allow you to, breathe, take some stress off of you as you go into your senior year. Even if you have other schools that you're wanting to hear back from, at least if you are accepted early, you know that you at least are going to college and you have been accepted to a school, which can relieve a lot of stress as you go into your senior year. Next is how to apply. So there are a few application platforms such as Coalition for College, the Common App, Apply Texas, and there's also the Common Black application. Now, this is not a platform that I'd heard anything about, which is why I was so set on including it in this video. If you are looking to attend an HBCU or even just applying to HBCUs, the Common Black application has over 65 HBCUs on its platform. It is important to remember that you can apply through several application platforms, and often colleges are on several platforms as well. So my general recommendation is that once you assemble your college list, you go through and decide which platform will be the most convenient for you. However, the most common application platform as of today is the Common App, and it has over 1,000 colleges and universities, which is why I will be basing this video loosely off of the Common App, but you can still use this video to apply through other applications as well. The biggest benefit to using the Common App, aside from it having almost every college or university that you can think of, is that it allows you to generally fill out one application and you can send that information to several different schools. It saves time, and also it allows you to keep track of all your applications in one place. To create a common application account, all you need to do is go on the website and fill out the basic information on the sign-in page, and from there you'll be able to start filling out your application. Personally, I believe the most important and pivotal part of your college application process is building your college application checklist. I have created a simple checklist that will be linked in the description box down below, but it is so important that whether you use mine or create your own, that you do have a checklist. This makes things easier on yourself so that you can know everything that you have to do. And personally, I feel like it makes the process easier and less overwhelming to just be able to look at applying to college as a list of steps that you need to check off. In my opinion, the most stressful part about applying to college is all of the essays, but specifically the personal essay. It can be stressful to think that you have to condense your entire personality into one short essay, but hopefully I will be able to relieve some of the stress. The personal essay is different for everyone, but here are a few tips and things to think about. The Common App personal essay is a 250 to 650 word essay responding to any of their prompts. However, you can write about whatever you want because they do have a free response prompt. So I wouldn't focus too much on choosing a prompt. I recommend you choose a topic and make it fit a prompt. When it comes to choosing a topic, I recommend that you brainstorm all the events and factors that have played a big part on your life in making you the person that you are today. And generally, you can structure some type of essay around those. For me, what I did was I started a note just in my phone and I brainstormed topics, and sometimes you get random moments of ideas or just creativity, and I would just jot it down in my notes app so that it was there once I decided to start writing my essay. The whole purpose of this personal essay and just your entire college application as a whole is to make the admissions officer want to admit you. This means that no matter what you write about, you should show some type of personal growth, a good character trait. Make sure that you're showing a good part of yourself. And even if you're writing about a negative experience that you've had in life or something negative that has happened to you, make sure you show how it has made you a better person. Now, here are a few quick tips for writing your Common App personal essay, or just any personal essay. So my first one is, do not spend more than 1/3 of your essay talking about someone else. This is a mistake that people often make, because often, you know, the biggest parts of us are the people around us, the people that have shaped us into who we are, parents, grandparents, and things like that. But you have to remember, yes, I'm not going to discourage anyone from writing about their family members, friends, people that have shaped a big part of them, but remember that the essay should be focused on you. So yes, you can spend like at 1/3 max of your essay talking about your grandparents, your friend, who they were, how they impacted you, but the rest of the essay should be how they've impacted you, what their impact has made you want to do, how it has shaped you as a person. Generally, something that I've heard a lot of admissions officers say is that the problem with these grandparents essays or parents essays is that at the end of the essay, it leaves them wanting to admit your grandparent and not you, and that's not what you want at all. This second one kind of goes hand in hand with the first one I said, but don't write a sob story. I'm not telling you that what you write about has to be all happy and, you know, just overly enthusiastic, but you don't want to just leave the admissions officer feeling bad for you, because someone feeling bad for you is not going to make them want to admit you. If you're going to write about a sad experience or a time in your life, you want to write about how you overcame it, how it shaped you into a better person, the effect it had, whether that's making you want to start your passion project, it influenced a passion of yours, a club you're in. You want to focus more on that than the actual sad event that happened. My next one is make sure that you end on a positive note. So I'm not going to be one of those people that tells you you can't write about anything sad, as I said before. Make sure that you always end on a positive note. You want to make sure that you leave the reader something to look forward to, something to be excited about, whether that's your future at their college or what you're going to do in the world. You want to make sure that you end on a positive note. Then my next one is to avoid overdone essays. So you have to remember that these admissions officers are reading thousands, okay, of essays in each application season, not even considering the application seasons before that. With that being said, you want to make sure that you're avoiding those cliche and overdone essays that they've probably heard 1,000 times before. For example, sports injuries. mission trips. I'm never gonna tell someone what they can and cannot write about, but if you're gonna take on an essay like this, you need to make sure that you're doing it in a creative way, something that's completely different, that they've never heard before, because you have to think like they've heard this essay 1,000 times before. So what's gonna set your essay apart? My next one is to make sure that you have a strong hook. So honestly, for me, like, as far as the personal essay in itself, the hardest part is starting how to start it, how to really capture readers' attention, because within those first few lines, your admission officer is going to know whether they care about your essay or not. I'm going to post a few hooks examples on the screen. Well, not examples, but ideas on how to start your essay, a few ways that you can go about it, because honestly, it can be an overwhelming process, so that I have 2 sentences to reel an admissions officer in, but that is just the truth of the matter. Next is, don't just rehash your resume. So I'm not telling you that you shouldn't use this essay to, you know, elaborate on a point in your application that's just, you know, the biggest part of your application, whether it's a passion project or whatever, but don't just use it to brag on yourself. You know, you have the whole application to brag on yourself. You have reward sections, activity sessions, all that. But you don't want to just, oh, I did this, and this. Because they already know that, you know? You want to tell them something that they don't know about you, or elaborate on something that is a big part of you. And my last tip is, don't try to sound too academic. So I know it can be tempting, you know, because you are trying to get into a higher education system, but, you know, admissions officers will see through all the, you know, the big words that you never used before. You kind of want to avoid that, because generally an admissions officer will be able to tell if you've never used these words before in your life, and you went online, you typed in synonyms of greats, and now you're using some crazy word. The next section is the activity section. So on the common application, you can list up to 10 activities, and there's a lot of discourse about whether or not you need to fill up all 10 activities. What I'm gonna say is, fill up as many quality activities as you have. So, you know, don't just try to fill up every spot, and as you get down the list, they're getting lower and lower and lower in quality. I would argue that with almost everything in life, it's quality over quantity. So, you know, I'm almost sure that an admissions officer will take a person with 7 just great extracurriculars that show who they are, that are quality, that they put time into, that they really care about, than somebody with 10 that are just generic extracurriculars that, you know, don't have any insight, don't have any depth. Another thing about this is, please make sure that your hours match up. So I know it can be tempting to stretch the hours or to exaggerate the hours, but make sure that the hours that you're putting are matching up, because it's just not feasibly possible for you to go to school full time and also do 80 hours a week, 100 hours a week in extracurriculars. So make sure you add those hours up and make sure that they make sense. Also, descriptions matter. So don't just put a generic decision. Don't just take a few seconds to type up something really quick. I put a lot of thought into the descriptions that I put on my Common App applications, because it shows, for one, I used every single section in this to show that I'm a good writer, even though you don't have to use full sentences to save space, because you do only get 150 characters. But I really took time to emphasize the impact of the organization, what my role was, the impact I had as an individual through each organization. I recommend that you arrange your extracurriculars, for most being 1 to least important being 10. So by most to least important, it means, I'm going to tell you a few things to think about. How long have you been in this organization? Do you hold a leadership position? Generally, how impressive is being in this organization? So I'm going to give you a few examples. For me, leadership positions go at the top. If you're the president of an organization, if you're vice president even. Another thing, if you're in a varsity sport, at the top. Okay, varsity sports, leadership positions at the top. And also after that, you don't hold any leadership positions or you're not in a varsity sport, you will put the things that you've been in the longest. So admissions officers want to see commitment. So if I've been in an organization for 4 years, I'm going to put that higher than something that I just got in my junior year or just got in my senior year. Also, organizations that are not as impressive or are just so common and overdone, I put those at the bottom. For example, for me, that was Student Council and National Honor Society. Nothing wrong with those extracurriculars. I put them on there, okay? But they were at the bottom because almost everybody applying to, you know, especially like the big schools, the Ivies, is in National Honor Society. You know, so it's not as impressive in that arena, so I put it towards the bottom. Next, we're going to talk about supplemental essays. So, supplemental essays are specific essays that certain colleges require, and these essays are college specific. So, this is where you're going to see the infamous Why Us essay. The Why Us essay is an essay that a lot of colleges ask, basically just asking, why do you want to come to this school? Why would you be a good fit at this school? You know, just asking, why do you want to be here? And because so many colleges ask this, I know it's really tempting to just write up a general little response and just keep changing every school's name. And I'm not telling you not to do that, but especially for your top choices, I recommend that you really try to nail your supplemental essays. And I'm going to tell you a few ways you can nail your YS essay. Firstly, for every school that you're trying to really get into, I'm talking about your reaches, your matches, your top schools, you need to understand what this school stands for when you're writing your YS essay. And you need to use that information to understand what they're looking for in an applicant. So for example, some schools are really big on community service. Some schools are really big on leadership. Some schools are really big on smarts. You just need to go and see what that school is looking for and make sure that you show that in your YS essay, in your applications, and any other supplementals that they give you, because that's what they're looking for in an applicant. As I said with the personal essay, it's so important that you write an interesting and engaging hook. They're going to be reading so many YS essays, and they've probably read so many YS essays for the school that they're, you know, an admissions officer at. So you want to make sure that your essay is engaging, that it sticks out. You know, make sure that you're getting your message across in a unique way. Also, you want to make sure that you're not just saying why this is a good school, because that doesn't say why you want to go there. There's so many good schools out there. They want to know why them. So you need to describe why you uniquely belong at this school, why you fit in this school, why this school is the only place for you. Whatever method you use to get that across, up to you, but make sure that you're focusing on why you uniquely belong at that school. Next, and I can't stress this enough, do not structure your essay around anything on the home page of their website. You have to think. If it's on the homepage of their website, this is generally something that everybody knows. So they're going to see thousands of essays around that same exact topic. Another question that a lot of students have is, should they write optional essays? So for starters, some schools do have an optional personal essay, which means that you don't have to, you know, submit your personal essay. I recommend that you send this personal essay to everyone, even if it's not required. And as far as it goes with optional supplemental essays, I recommend that you send this to everyone, but I understand that that's a lot of work. You may not have the time, the patience, the energy to do that. I recommend that you send it to every reach school and as many match schools as you can, because look at it this way. If a college gives you an optional supplemental essay and you didn't write it, that shows a college that you had the opportunity to demonstrate interest and you didn't take it. And while this may not be detrimental to your application, if it comes down to you and a student who took that extra step to show interest, who do you think they're going to pick? So just make sure that you're taking that into account when you're deciding whether you should write the optional essays. Something that my mom always told me is that optional is never optional. So a lot of times when people say something is optional, they're saying you don't have to do it, it's not mandatory. but you really should do it. And I think that applies to college application season as well. So the next category is letters of recommendation. A lot of times students look at letters of recommendation as just something to check off on the list. And while that is true, they are so much more important. Letters of recommendation stand as a testament to your character, your unique traits, your personal success, your academic success in comparison to the other students at your school. So it is so important that you are putting time and effort into thinking about who will write these letters of recommendation. So when it comes to asking for a letter of recommendation, I recommend that you ask in person if you can. So whether that's stopping by this person's office or their classroom after school. But sometimes it's just not feasible. That person may not be at your school anymore. You may not see them in person anymore. In that case, I recommend that you send them an email. In this email, you should include your name, what year in class you had them for, your GPA, class rank, just a brief synopsis of the academic rigor that you had. But also, this is where you want to include things about your personality. You want them to highlight things about you as a student, you as a student in the school, so meaning like clubs you were involved in, just anything that you want them to highlight in your letters of recommendation. You can put that in this email. Also, even if you do ask the recommender in person, I recommend that you still send this email so they have the details of what you're looking for in your recommendation. So how do you actually send letters of recommendation? On the Common App, you have to invite someone to write a letter of recommendation. And this is something that's so important. It's gonna say to waive your FERPA rights, which is the right to see the letter. You need to waive these rights because colleges will see if you did not waive them, and that will be detrimental to your application. Not detrimental, but it can hurt you. So waive the rights so that you can't see the letter. And then from there, you just send them the link to invite them. They write the letter of recommendation, and you select which schools you want to send each recommendation to. So because every college has a different requirement for what type of letters of recommendation they want, I recommend you get at least one counselor, 2 core teachers. They want to hear from your core teachers. So that's math, science, English. Oh my gosh, math, science, English, and history. So I recommend you get at least 2 core teachers, and then I recommend that you get 1 other. This can just be a art teacher or another thing. If you play varsity sport, I recommend that you get your varsity sports coach to write the extra letter recommendation. And then you just go by what each college is requiring and see which ones you want to send which to. Another thing is, so there's argument on whether or not colleges care what year you had the teacher in. I generally try to stick to at least teachers that I had in my junior and senior year. I try not to go any lower than that. If you have to do sophomore, you can. I don't recommend doing a freshman year just because you're not the same person that you were freshman year that you are in your senior year. So generally try to stick with junior and senior teachers. Now we're on our last step, submitting the application. As you would do anything, make sure you're double, triple checking for errors, any mistakes, anything like that before you submit your application. Also, make sure that you research the different opportunities required by the schools that you are applying to so that you're not missing deadlines. For example, scholarships opportunities, honors college. I know for NCAT, you do have to submit an application to be in their honors college. So that was just an example, but make sure that you're looking at that type of stuff so that you're not missing deadlines. And that brings us to the end of today's video. All the documents that I referenced will be linked in the description box down below. I hope that I was able to relieve some of the stress, confusion, overwhelmness that you guys are probably feeling in this time. Make sure that you like, comment, and subscribe. And follow us on our social media platforms to stay tuned for all of our future events, opportunities, endeavors, just all the things that we're going to be posting. Thank you guys so much for watching. If there's any more videos you would like me to do, comment them in the description box down below. And with that being said, bye!